2 weeks after the revelation, Instructor Clickingthorn called Tae Young to his office. The message came during breakfast, marked as urgent. Tae Young finished his meal quickly and headed to the instructor's quarters. The office was typical for an insectoid. The ceiling was high, the furniture was arranged for multiple arms, and the temperature was warmer than humans preferred. Clickingthorn was standing by a large window that looked out over the academy grounds. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Tae Young asked. "Yes, Cadet Kang, please sit." Clickingthorn gestured to a human-sized chair. He must have brought it in specifically for this meeting. Tae Young sat. He waited while the instructor remained by the window, his mandibles clicking softly in a pattern that usually meant he was thinking. Finally, Clickingthorn turned around. "I owe you an apology, Cadet Kang. That was not what Tae Young had expected." "Sir? When I designed that lesson about the Butchers of Earth, I knew you were in the class. I knew who you were. I checked the records before the semester began. I saw that you had served in Squad 27. Tae Young felt a flash of surprise, then understanding. "You planned this. You wanted the other students to learn about us before they knew I was one of us." "Yes," Clickingthorn admitted. He moved to his desk and sat down, his forearms arranging themselves in a position of formal respect. "I wanted them to understand what humans are capable of. What you are capable of, but I did not fully consider how it would affect you." "It was a shock," Tae Young said honestly, "finding out that my squad is legendary, that other species are afraid of us, that what we thought was normal is actually terrifying." "Are you angry with me?" Tae Young thought about it. "No, sir. I understand why you did it, and it needed to be done. These students will be officers someday. They need to understand how humans think, how we fight. If they are going to command human troops or fight alongside them, they need to know." Clickingthorn's mandibles clicked, and what Tae Young had learned was approval. "You are wise, Cadet Kang. Wiser than I expected. That brings me to why I called you here." The instructor activated a holographic display. It showed documents, military reports, and official seals from the Galactic Coalition. Earth has submitted applications for several positions in the Coalition peacekeeping forces. They want to provide units for security operations, disaster relief, and conflict resolution. "That makes sense," Tae Young said. "Humans want to help. We want to be part of the galaxy." "Yes," Clickingthorn agreed. "But there is a problem. Many species are afraid of human soldiers. They see you as the butchers, as unstoppable warriors who do not know when to quit. They are afraid that human peacekeepers will be too violent, too aggressive, too willing to fight." Tae Young felt frustrated. "But that is not who we are. We fight when we have to, but we would rather build than destroy. We would rather help than hurt." "I know," the instructor said quietly. "I have been studying humans since your species joined the Coalition. I have read your history, your literature, your military doctrine. I understand something that many in the galaxy do not." He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Tae Young. "Humans are not warriors. You are protectors." The words hung in the air. Tae Young felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. "You fight so fiercely because you are protecting something." Clickingthorn continued. "Your families, your friends, your homes, your values. You do not fight for glory or conquest. You fight because something you care about is threatened." "Yes," Tae Young said. "That is exactly it. The problem is that most species do not understand this distinction. They see your ferocity in battle and assume you love violence. They do not see that you would prefer peace. They do not understand that the same humans who are terrifying in combat are gentle in daily life." The instructor pulled up more images. They showed human peacekeepers in various situations. Building schools, distributing food, helping refugees, protecting civilians. "I have been preparing a report for the Coalition Council. I am arguing that human peacekeepers should be approved. But I need help. I need someone who can explain to the galaxy what humans really are." Tae Young began to understand. "You want me to help with the report?" "More than that," Clickingthorn said. "I want you to be an example. You are a butcher of Earth, but you are also a cadet studying to become an officer. You are choosing to serve in peacetime, not just in war. You represent what humans can be." He paused, then added, "I have contacted your former squad members as well. With their permission, I would like to include information about their current lives in the report." "What are they doing now?" Tae Young asked, curious about what the instructor had found. "Sergeant Pak is a construction foreman on a new colony world. She is building homes for refugees. Corporal Lim is a wildlife photographer, documenting endangered species. Private Choi is a pediatric surgeon, saving children's lives. Lance Corporal Bay teaches kindergarten. Clicking Thorn's mandibles clicked softly. The butchers of Earth are not butchering anymore. They are building, healing, teaching, protecting. That is what I want the galaxy to see. Tae Young felt a warmth spreading through him. His squad was still being his squad, still protecting people, just in different ways. What do you need from me, sir? I need you to succeed here at the Academy. I need you to show these alien cadets that humans can be trusted, that humans can work with other species, that humans can be leaders and teachers, not just warriors. I can do that, Tae Young said. I know you can. The instructor replied. You have already begun. The students who were afraid of you 2 weeks ago are now seeking you out. They want to understand. They want to learn. You are building bridges, Cadet Kang. Just as your sergeant built her bridge, but this time with words and patience instead of explosives and stubbornness. Tae Young smiled at that image. Hana would appreciate the comparison. There is one more thing, Clicking Thorn said. He pulled up a final document. I have been asked to teach a new course next semester. It is called Human-Alien Cooperation in Military Operations. It will be required for all cadets who will be working with human forces. I would like you to be my teaching assistant. Me? Tae Young was surprised. But I am just a second-year cadet. You are a butcher of Earth, Clicking Thorn corrected. You have combat experience that 90% of the instructors here do not have. More importantly, you understand both human and alien perspectives. You can explain why humans do what they do. You can help alien cadets understand your species. Tae Young thought about it. It would be more work, more responsibility, more time spent being stared at and questioned. But it would also be a chance to help, to build understanding, to make sure that humans and aliens could work together better. I will do it, he said. Good, Clicking Thorn said. He stood up, extending one of his forearms in the human gesture of a handshake that he had learned. Thank you, Cadet Kang. Tae Young shook the offered hand. Thank you, sir, for understanding us, for seeing us as more than just butchers. Oh, you are still butchers, the instructor said, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. But you are butchers who choose to build instead of destroy. That is what makes you remarkable. As Tae Young left the office, he thought about everything that had happened. He had come to the academy to become an officer, to serve his species and the coalition. He had not expected to become a representative of all humanity. He had not expected his old squad to become legends. He had not expected to have to explain why humans cared so much about protecting each other. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the galaxy needed to understand humans. Maybe they needed to see that humans were not monsters, that humans could be trusted, that humans would fight for their friends but would rather have friends than fights. He pulled out his communicator and sent a message to his old squad. He told them about the meeting with Clicking Thorn, about the report, about the new course. He told them that the galaxy was learning about humans, slowly but surely. Hana responded first. Tell them we are still here if they need us. Butchers never really retire. Daewon's message was shorter. Protecting people is what we do. War or peace doesn't matter. Yuna sent a picture of one of her patients, a small alien child she had just saved. This is why we fought. So children can grow up safe. Sung-ho's message made Tae Young laugh. My kindergartners are tougher than the creche. Tell the galaxy that humans can handle anything. Tae Young walked back to his quarters, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. His squad was scattered across the galaxy, but they were still together in the ways that mattered. They were still protecting people, still refusing to quit, still being human. And now the galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant. The butchers of Earth were not butchers anymore. They were builders, healers, teachers, protectors. They were humans doing what humans do best. They were taking care of each other. And now they were taking care of the galaxy too. That night, Tae Young looked at the photo on his wall one more time. His squad all together, smiling despite the dirt and exhaustion. They had survived a war. They had become legends, and now they were showing the galaxy that humans were more than just warriors. They were family, and family looked after each other always. The next few days were strange for Tae Young. Word spread quickly through the academy that one of the legendary butchers of Earth was a student there. Everywhere he went, aliens stared at him. Some kept their distance. Others wanted to talk to him, to ask questions, to understand. Tae-young tried to continue with his normal routine, but nothing felt normal anymore. In combat training, his instructors watched him more carefully. In tactical classes, other students wanted to know his opinion on everything. In the cafeteria, aliens would sit near him just to observe how he ate, as if that might reveal some secret to human combat effectiveness. On the 4th day after the revelation, he was sitting alone in the cafeteria, trying to enjoy his meal in peace. A group of students approached his table. He recognized them from his xenohistory class. "Cadet Kang," said a tall, gray-skinned alien named Veltara. "May we sit with you?" Tae-young nodded. Of course. 5 aliens sat down, arranging themselves around the table. They all looked nervous but also curious. "We have been discussing the lecture," Veltara said. "We have many questions. Would you be willing to answer them?" "I'll try," Tae-young said. He was getting used to this. A small amphibian leaned forward. "When Sergeant Pack held the bridge, you said she was just doing her job. But she knew she would probably die. How could she make that choice?" Tae-young thought about how to explain it. Hana knew that if she didn't hold the bridge, thousands of people would die. Soldiers, civilians, children. She couldn't let that happen. But she could have died. The amphibian insisted. Yes, Tae-young agreed. But if she had run away, she would have had to live knowing that she let those people die when she could have saved them. For Hana, that would have been worse than dying. The aliens looked at each other, their expressions confused. "That makes no sense," Veltara said. "Being alive is better than being dead. That is basic logic." "Not if you have to live with yourself afterward," Tae-young said. "Humans have to be able to look at themselves in the mirror. We have to be able to sleep at night. If we do something cowardly, if we abandon people who need us, that haunts us forever." "Guilt," said a crystalline student. "You are describing guilt." "Yes," Tae-young said. "Humans feel guilt very strongly. If we fail to protect someone, if we run away when we should have stayed, we carry that forever. Sometimes it is easier to fight than to live with that guilt." The aliens were quiet, processing this information. "What about Corporal Lim?" asked another student. 3 days alone. No food, no water. "Why not retreat?" Tae-young smiled, remembering his friend. "Daewon is patient. He can wait." And he knew we needed that information. He knew soldiers were counting on him. So he waited and he did his job. "But he could have died from dehydration," the student protested. "He could have," Tae-young admitted. But Daewon trusted himself. He knew his limits. He knew he could last 3 days. And he knew that if he left early, people would die because we did not have the right information. "You keep saying that," Veltara observed. "You keep talking about other people dying. Is that what motivates humans? Fear of others dying?" Tae-young considered this. Not fear exactly, responsibility. We feel responsible for each other. Especially soldiers. Your squad is your family. You protect family. You do not abandon family. Even if it costs your life. "Especially if it costs your life," Tae-young said quietly. "Because that is what family means." The conversation continued for over an hour. The aliens asked about Yuna, about Sung-ho, about the other members of the squad. They asked about human training, human psychology, human culture. Tae-young did his best to explain, but he kept running into the same problem. Things that seemed obvious to him were alien concepts to them. Things they found terrifying were normal to him. Finally, Veltara asked a different question. "Cadet Kang, do all humans think this way? Or was your squad special?" Tae-young laughed. "We were not special. We were just regular infantry. Every human soldier I have ever met thinks the same way. Look after your squad. Complete the mission. Do not quit. These are basic things." The aliens looked disturbed by this answer. "So every human unit would fight like the butchers?" asked the amphibian. "Pretty much," Tae-young said. "I mean, some humans are braver than others. Some are smarter or stronger. But the basic attitude? That is just human. We are stubborn. We do not like to lose. And we really, really do not like to let each other down." Later that evening, Tae-young was in his quarters when his communication console beeped. He had a message. When he opened it, he smiled. It was from Hana. He had sent messages to his old squad the day after the revelation, telling them what had happened. Now they were responding. He opened a video call and suddenly his screen was filled with familiar faces. "Lucky," Hana's voice came through clearly. She was grinning. "We heard you are famous now." "Don't call me that," Tae-young said, but he was smiling. "And I am not famous. You guys are famous. I am just the guy who got recognized." Daewon's quiet voice came from the background. "I still do not understand why they call us butchers. We were infantry." "Because we scared them," Yuna said. She looked the same as Tae-young remembered, still with that kind smile. "We fought differently than they expected. We fought like humans," Sung-ho added. The big man was sitting in what looked like a kindergarten classroom, which apparently makes us terrifying. Tae-young told them about the classes, about the alien reactions, about the questions. His old squad mates listened, sometimes laughing, sometimes looking thoughtful. "It is strange," Hana said. "We never thought we were doing anything special. We were just trying to get everyone home alive." "That is what they find scary," Tae-young explained. "Other species retreat to save themselves. We refuse to retreat because we want to save each other. They do not understand it." "Do you think they ever will?" Yuna asked. Tae-young thought about his conversations with the alien students. "Maybe some of them are trying. They want to understand, but it is hard for them. Pack bonding is not instinctive for most species. They have to learn it. We are just born with it." "Well," Hana said, "at least they know we are on their side now. That has to count for something." They talked for another hour, catching up on each other's lives. Hana told stories about her construction work. Daewon showed photos from his wildlife photography. Yuna talked about her patience. Sung-ho complained about how difficult kindergarteners were compared to enemy soldiers. It felt good to talk to them. It reminded Tae-young that they were not legends. They were not butchers. They were just people. His family. When the call ended, Tae-young sat in his quiet room and thought about everything that had happened. The galaxy saw humans as terrifying warriors. They saw the butchers of Earth as unstoppable monsters. But Tae-young knew the truth. They were not monsters. They were just humans who cared about each other, who refused to give up, who would rather die than fail their friends. And if that made them butchers in the eyes of the galaxy, then maybe that was okay. Because at least the galaxy knew that humans would protect their own, that humans would fight for what mattered, that humans would never, ever abandon each other. Tae-young looked at the photo on his wall. His squad, all together, dirty and tired but smiling. They had survived a war together. They had protected each other. They had done their jobs. They had been human. And in this galaxy full of aliens who fled from danger, who valued individual survival over loyalty, who could not understand sacrifice, maybe being human was the most powerful thing of all. The lecture hall went completely silent. Every alien in the room turned to stare at Tae-young. His own face, younger and wearing combat armor, stared back at him from the holographic display. "Private First Class Tae-young Kang," Thorn said, his voice carrying clearly through the silence. "Call sign Lucky, communications specialist for Squad 27. Tae-young could not move, could not speak. His hands gripped the edges of his desk. Private Kang maintained communication networks under impossible conditions. The instructor continued. He refused to abandon equipment even during full retreats. He once carried a 40-kilogram communications array for 18 kilometers while under fire. His commanding officers noted his impossible survival instincts and his refusal to leave any soldier without communication support. The hologram showed mission reports, battle footage, and commendations. Tae-young saw himself in the images, younger and covered in dirt and blood, but definitely himself. A blue-skinned alien in the front row raised a tentacle. Her voice was shaking. "Instructor, are you saying that Cadet Kang is one of the butchers of Earth?" Thorn's mandibles clicked together. "I am saying that Cadet Kang served in Squad 27 2nd Battalion during the HFY War, the squad that the galaxy came to call the Butchers of Earth." Every eye in the room was on Tae-young now. Some aliens looked frightened. Others looked amazed. A few looked at him like he was a dangerous weapon that might go off at any moment. Tae-young finally found his voice. It came out rough and confused. That's just my old unit. We were regular infantry. We were just doing our jobs." The silence that followed was heavy. Then suddenly a dozen students started talking at once. Questions flew through the air. "Just doing your jobs? That was regular infantry? You call that normal?" Thorn raised two arms, calling for quiet. "Cadets, please. I believe Cadet Kang is sincere in his assessment." This brings us to the most important part of today's lesson. The instructor turned to face Tae-young directly. Cadet Kang, you said you were just doing your jobs. Is that how you remember it? Tae-young nodded slowly. Yes, sir. We had missions. We completed them. That's what soldiers do. When Sergeant Pak held the bridge alone, did that seem unusual to you? Well, yes, Tae-young admitted. But Hana was our sergeant. She was responsible for us. She stayed behind so we could get civilians out. That's what leaders do. A crystalline student made a sound like breaking glass. That is not what leaders do. Leaders preserve their own lives. Leaders retreat when faced with impossible odds. Tae-young frowned. Then who leads the soldiers? Who makes sure everyone gets out? The classroom erupted again. Aliens shouted in multiple languages. The translator devices struggled to keep up. Clicking Thorn had to call for silence 3 times before the room finally quieted. You see the problem, the instructor said, his voice carrying a strange tone. What humans consider normal leadership is considered suicidal martyrdom by every other species in the galaxy. He turned back to Tae-young. What about Corporal Lim? 3 days without food or water, alone behind enemy lines. Did that seem normal? Tae-young thought about it. Daewon was always the patient one. He could sit still for hours. And he knew the mission was important. We needed that intelligence. He could have retreated, Clicking Thorn pointed out. He could have saved himself. But then we would not have had the intelligence, Tae-young replied, confused. Soldiers would have died. The mission would have failed. A small furry alien stood up. Its voice was high and frightened. You would rather die than fail a mission? Tae-young was starting to understand that something was very wrong with this conversation. We try not to die, he said carefully. But yes, the mission is important. People are counting on us. What about Private Choi? Clicking Thorn asked. She performed surgery on herself. She was seriously wounded. Why did she not call for help? Because the other soldiers were hurt worse than she was, Tae-young said. Yuna's a medic. She helps people. That's her job. And she's good at it. She nearly died. But she didn't, Tae-young said. And everyone else lived. That's what matters. The instructor was quiet for a moment. His mandibles clicked slowly. Cadet Kang, do you understand what you are saying? You are describing behavior that every other species considers insane. You are talking about sacrificing yourself for a mission, for other soldiers, for people you might not even know. Tae-young felt frustrated now. Yes, that's what soldiers do. That's what we signed up for. We protect people. We complete the mission. We look after each other. Is that really so strange? Yes! The shout came from multiple students at once. The room exploded with voices again. My species flees when outnumbered 3-1. We surrender if casualties reach 15%. We value individual survival over mission success. We have instincts that tell us to preserve our own lives. Tae-young listened to the shouting, and slowly understanding began to dawn. Humans were different. Really different. Things he had always thought were normal. Universal soldier behavior were actually unique to humans. The stubborn refusal to quit. The willingness to sacrifice for others. The ability to push through pain and injury. The loyalty to the squad above everything else. These were not normal. These were human. Clicking Thorn waited for the noise to die down again. When the room was quiet, he spoke softly. Now you begin to understand. The Butchers of Earth were not monsters. They were not specially trained killers. They were ordinary human soldiers behaving in ways that humans consider normal. The instructor pulled up more images. Battle after battle. Victory after victory. Squad 27 participated in 12 major engagements. They were outnumbered in every single one. They won every single one. They lost only 3 members over the entire war, and 2 of those survived their injuries. He turned back to Tae-young. Your squad was studied by military scientists from every species in the coalition. Do you know what they concluded? Tae-young shook his head, not trusting his voice. They concluded that humans do not have the normal survival instincts that other species have, or rather, they do have them. But humans have something stronger. Humans have pack bonding. Humans have loyalty. Humans have this strange, stubborn belief that they can win if they just refuse to give up. The hologram showed the squad photo now, all of them together, dirty and tired but smiling. Hana with her arm around Yuna. Daewon standing quietly in the back. Sung-ho making a silly face. Tae-young himself, young and confident, holding his communications equipment. The galaxy called you butchers because we could not understand you. Clicking Thorn said quietly. We saw humans who would not retreat, who would not surrender, who kept fighting when fighting was impossible. We thought you must be monsters who loved killing. He paused, his mandibles clicking softly. We were wrong. You are not monsters. You are humans, and that is somehow more terrifying. Tae-young looked at the photo of his old squad, his family, the people he would have died for without hesitation, the people who would have died for him just as easily. We were just taking care of each other, he said softly. I know. Clicking Thorn replied. That is what makes you the butchers of Earth. The class sat in silence, staring at the human in their midst, and understanding for the first time exactly what humans were capable of. And Tae-young sat in silence, realizing for the first time that the way his squad had fought, the way they had protected each other, the way they had refused to quit, was something unique in the entire galaxy. They had not been monsters. They had just been human. And maybe, he thought, that was enough. Tae-young barely slept that night. He kept thinking about the lecture, about the butchers of Earth, about his old unit. He told himself he was being paranoid. There had been thousands of human units in the HFY War. The chances that his squad was the one being discussed were tiny, but he could not shake the feeling. The next morning, he arrived at the lecture hall early. Other students were already there, talking in small groups. When he entered, several conversations stopped. Aliens stared at him with what looked like fear or respect or both. One small alien actually moved to a seat farther away. Tae-young sighed and took his usual seat. He pulled out his datapad and waited. Clicking Thorn entered exactly on time. The instructor moved to the front of the room and activated the holographic display without any greeting. Today, he said, we examine specific battles. We will look at how the butchers of Earth operated. We will see what made them so terrifying. The hologram showed a new location. It was a bridge, long and narrow, crossing a deep canyon. The structure looked damaged, with holes blown in the surface and railings torn away. The Battle of Ridge Bridge, Clicking Thorn announced, a critical supply route during the HFY advance. If the bridge fell, an entire human defensive line would collapse. 30,000 soldiers and 500,000 civilians would be trapped. The image zoomed in, showing defensive positions at one end of the bridge. The HFY sent 300 soldiers to take the bridge. The humans had 40 soldiers defending it. Standard military doctrine says the defenders should have retreated immediately. The odds were impossible. Tae-young felt his mouth go dry. He remembered this. He remembered this bridge. The human commander made a different choice, Clicking Thorn continued. She sent 39 soldiers back to help with the evacuation. She stayed alone to hold the bridge. The hologram changed. It showed a human woman in combat armor. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with short dark hair and a strong jaw. She was setting up explosive charges along the bridge. Tae-young's heart stopped. He knew that face. He knew that woman. Sergeant Hana Pak, Clicking Thorn said. Her call sign was Hammer. She held this bridge alone for 4 hours and 17 minutes. The classroom was completely silent. Every student was staring at the hologram. The records show that Sergeant Pak was injured multiple times during the engagement. She suffered a broken leg, 2 fractured ribs, and severe burns. She continued fighting. When her rifle ammunition ran out, she used explosives. When those ran out, she used her sidearm. When that ran out, she used a knife. Clicking Thorn pulled up combat footage. It was grainy and shaky, but it showed a figure moving across the bridge. Even injured, even limping, the figure moved with purpose and determination. Explosions lit up the bridge. Enemy soldiers fell. By the time reinforcements arrived, the instructor said, Sergeant Pak had eliminated or repelled 73 enemy soldiers. The bridge held. The evacuation succeeded. 30,000 soldiers and 500,000 civilians survived. A crystalline student raised what might have been a hand. Instructor, how did she survive her injuries? Human physiology, Clicking Thorn replied. Humans have extraordinary pain tolerance and the ability to function through trauma that would kill most species. They also have what they call adrenaline, a chemical their bodies produce that allows them to ignore injury and perform beyond normal limits. Tae-young wanted to say something, to explain that Hana was just doing her job, but his throat was tight. He remembered helping to pull her off that bridge. She had been smiling even with the broken leg. She had asked if everyone got out safely before she would let Yuna treat her wounds. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a different battlefield. This one was urban, with tall buildings and narrow streets. The siege of Kresh 4, Clickingthorn said. Urban combat is considered the most difficult form of warfare. The Kresh held the city with 10,000 soldiers. A human unit was sent to gather intelligence, not to engage. The image focused on a single building, mostly collapsed. One human soldier spent 3 days in that building, gathering information and eliminating high-value targets. He had no food, no water, and limited ammunition. He was behind enemy lines completely alone. Another face appeared on the hologram. A young man with a quiet, calm expression. He looked almost bored in his official photo. Tae-young closed his eyes. Day 1. Corporal Daewon Lim, Clickingthorn said. Call sign Ghost. He transmitted enemy positions for 72 hours straight. His intelligence allowed the main human force to bypass fortified positions and strike at weak points. He personally eliminated 347 enemy soldiers. A furry alien made a sound of distress. 347. In 3 days, how? Precision and patience, Clickingthorn answered. Corporal Lim's accuracy rate was 99.4%. Every shot was a kill. He did not waste ammunition. He did not miss. Military analysts believe he is one of the most effective snipers in recorded history. The instructor pulled up more data. When the human force finally reached his position, they found him still awake and alert. He had not slept in 3 days. He reported his situation, provided a final intelligence update, and then politely asked if anyone had brought water. A few nervous laughs came from the alien students. Tae-young did not laugh. He remembered Daewon being extracted from that building. The man had been so dehydrated he could barely stand. But he had still carried all his equipment out himself. He had refused medical evacuation until he had cleaned his rifle. Let us continue, Clickingthorn said. The hologram shifted to yet another battlefield. This one showed an open area with scattered equipment and bodies. The Kresh used chemical weapons during the war. One attack targeted a human field hospital. 37 wounded soldiers and 8 medical staff were present when the attack began. A new face appeared. A woman younger than Hana with gentle eyes and a kind smile. Private Yuna Choi, Clickingthorn said. Call sign medic. She was the only medical personnel not incapacitated by the chemical attack. She treated all 37 wounded soldiers while wearing a damaged protective suit. She performed surgery on 5 soldiers with critical injuries. The instructor paused, his mandibles clicking slowly. During this time, she was also wounded. Shrapnel from enemy artillery struck her abdomen. The records show she performed basic surgery on herself, sealed the wound with medical adhesive, and continued treating the other wounded. Several students made sounds of horror. One alien looked like it might be sick. All 37 wounded soldiers survived, Clickingthorn continued. Private Choi did not report her own injury until all patients were stable. She collapsed 17 hours after the attack began. Tae-young remembered that day. He had been one of the wounded soldiers Yuna had treated. She had smiled at him, told him he would be fine, and moved on to help others. He had not known she was hurt. She had not said anything. The hologram showed one more face, this time a large man with broad shoulders and a serious expression. Lance Corporal Sung-ho Bae, Clickingthorn said. Call sign Tank, heavy weapons specialist. During the Battle of Kresh 9, he walked through plasma fire to rescue a trapped unit. He carried his heavy weapon weighing 70 kilograms along with 2 wounded soldiers. He was struck by plasma fire 6 times. He did not stop moving until all soldiers were safe. Tae-young felt numb. These were his friends, his squadmates, his family, and the galaxy called them the Butchers of Earth. Clickingthorn turned to face the class. These 4 individuals were part of the same unit, Squad 27 2nd Battalion, and there were others. The hologram changed one final time, and Tae-young saw his own face staring back at him. The lecture hall was massive, built to hold over 200 students from dozens of different species. Tae-young sat near the back, his human-sized chair looking small compared to the platforms designed for the larger alien cadets. He was used to it by now. After 6 months at the Galactic Military Academy, he had learned to adjust. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the room. There were tall, crystalline beings that sparkled under the lights. There were small, furry creatures that looked like walking carpets. There were floating gas clouds contained in special suits. And there were only 3 humans in the entire academy. Tae-young pulled out his datapad and prepared to take notes. The class was xenohistory, which meant learning about military conflicts across the galaxy. It was one of his favorite subjects, even though the instructor was intimidating. Instructor Clicking Thorn entered the room. He was a massive insectoid, standing nearly 8 feet tall. His exoskeleton was a deep green color, and his forearms moved with precise, controlled motions. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together, which is how he got his name. "Good morning, cadets," Clicking Thorn said. His translator device made his voice sound smooth and professional. "Today we begin a new unit. We will study the most feared military units in known space." The room buzzed with interest. Students shifted in their seats, eager to learn. Tae-young leaned forward. This sounded interesting. Clicking Thorn activated the large holographic display at the front of the room. An image appeared showing a planet. Tae-young recognized it immediately. It was Earth. "Today's subject is particularly relevant," the instructor continued. "We will examine a unit from Earth, a human unit." Tae-young felt dozens of eyes turned toward him. He was used to being stared at. Humans were still new to the Galactic Coalition. They had only joined 15 years ago, and most aliens found them strange. Some found them frightening, though Tae-young never understood why. The hologram changed. It now showed a battlefield. The image was devastated, with destroyed buildings and scarred ground. Bodies littered the area, though most of them were not human. "This," Clicking Thorn said slowly, "is the aftermath of the Battle of Kresh 7. It took place during the Kresh War, approximately 12 years ago." Tae-young did the math quickly. 12 years ago, he would have been 19 years old. He had been in the military then, serving his time before he was selected for officer training. A strange feeling crept up his spine. The defending force numbered 50,000 trained soldiers, the instructor continued. They had fortified positions, air support, and superior weaponry. The attacking force numbered only 1,000. A murmur went through the classroom. Those odds were impossible. "The attacking force won," Clicking Thorn said. "They suffered only 12 casualties. The defenders lost everything." The hologram changed again. Now it showed a symbol. It was simple. A knife crossed with a rifle, and beneath it words in several languages, including English. The English words read, "2nd Battalion, 7th Squad." "This unit," Clicking Thorn said, his voice dropping lower, "was part of a group humans called the Butchers of Earth." The classroom went silent. Several students made sounds of fear. A small blue-skinned alien 2 rows ahead of Tae-young actually whimpered. Tae-young frowned. He had never heard of any unit called the Butchers of Earth. It sounded like propaganda, or maybe a mistranslation. "The Butchers of Earth," Clicking Thorn continued, "were not an official designation. It was a name given by their enemies. Then it was adopted by their allies. And finally, it was used by military historians across the galaxy." The instructor began pacing, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. These humans displayed combat characteristics that were considered impossible by all known military science. They refused to retreat even when outnumbered by ratios of 50 to 1 or more. They continued fighting with injuries that would incapacitate or kill members of other species. They showed no fear of death. Tae-young shifted uncomfortably. This sounded like propaganda, definitely. Humans got scared. Humans retreated when necessary. Humans were just people. "Let me share some documented facts," Clicking Thorn said. He pulled up a list on the hologram. The Butchers participated in 12 major engagements during the Kresh War. They won all 12. They were deployed to situations considered unwinnable. They won anyway. They suffered casualties at rates lower than any other unit in the war. Another student raised a tentacle. "Instructor, how is this possible? What made these humans so different?" Clicking Thorn's mandibles clicked together in what might have been his version of a smile. "That is an excellent question. Military scientists have studied this extensively. The conclusion is disturbing." He paused for effect. The humans were not different. They were typical human soldiers. The classroom erupted. Students shouted questions. Some made sounds of disbelief. Others looked at Tae-young with expressions he could not read. Clicking Thorn raised 2 of his arms, calling for silence. "Cadets, please. I understand your reaction, but the evidence is clear. The Butchers of Earth were not special forces. They were not genetically modified. They were not given experimental enhancements. They were standard human infantry." Tae-young felt his heart beating faster. Standard human infantry? 12 years ago, during the Kresh War. Something about this was starting to feel very familiar. Over the next few sessions, Clicking Thorn continued, We will examine specific battles and specific individuals. We will study their tactics, their equipment, and their mindset. We will try to understand what made them so effective and so feared. The instructor looked directly at Tae-young. Cadet Kang, I trust this will be educational for you as well. Perhaps you can offer insights that we aliens cannot. Tae-young nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. But inside he felt a growing sense of dread. He remembered the HFY War. He remembered his unit. He remembered his sergeant, a woman named Hana who never backed down from anything. He remembered Day One, the quiet sniper who could hit targets from impossible distances. He remembered Yuna, the medic who had saved his life twice. The class ended and students began filing out. Many of them gave Tae-young a wide berth, as if he might suddenly become dangerous. He packed up his datapad slowly, lost in thought. Could it be possible? Could his old unit be these legendary butchers of Earth? It seemed ridiculous. They had just been regular soldiers doing their jobs. Sure, the fighting had been hard. Sure, they had won battles they probably should not have won. But that was just what soldiers did, right? Tae-young left the classroom, but he could not shake the feeling. Tomorrow, Clicking Thorn would show them more details. Tomorrow, he would learn more about these butchers. And Tae-young had a terrible suspicion that tomorrow he would see faces he recognized.